the hands of YouTube and Zoom deciding to live stream everything.
Oh, that's you. Okay. All right. Yeah,
Okay.
you find it. Let me know.
Okay. Both of y'all are highlighted. That's good there. Nicole, you should have the backgrounds. I'm gonna flip the beginning of it so you ain't gotta worry about it on this front. I ain't gonna worry about that.
I have the background.
Yeah, check your Zoom. Check
Slack.
your Slack. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
hmm And then
All
whenever you get your background set, how you want to do it, you tell me when you're ready to rock and roll,
right. Let me
and I
just
will give
pop
you
it in
the
here.
good old thumbs up.
Let me pop it in here.
And I'll click
That should
everything
get me
again.
what I need. There we go. That is set. I am getting my screens aligned one last time, and then I'll be ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yay for all of them. Um,
If that'll work. Mm, I'm good. I'm good. I should be good now. Technology
Yay, technology.
and my
Yeah.
sister's office. So,
Okay, cool. Let me try that same thing. I'm gonna take myself off the camera. Um,
okay.
your two are highlighted so they won't see anybody else, so you're all good here. I'm gonna start letting people in.
Okay.
Are you all set?
Yes, I am set.
All right, I'm gonna start letting people in.
All right. Here's Alicia. All right. So are we good to start, CP?
You are all set.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for your patience, everyone. Just figuring out some technical difficulties. But welcome to Agile in Colors Share Your Story series. I'm Nicole Spence Goon, your host. And for my part, I'm going to be hosting our event tonight. I'm part of the core team for Agile in Color. And in our Share Your Story series, we come together on a semi-quarterly basis where we profile various Black agilists and tech thought leaders. And the goal here is to have them tell their stories that we don't normally get to hear and really understand each person's professional journey from a Black technologist perspective. And we hope by hearing these stories that our community will be able to identify with the storyteller and visualize their own possibilities. And so tonight, we are featuring Nazim Ansari. And Nazim is a managing director at Slalom based in Houston. But how did I come to know about Nazim? So in our series, we try to keep the community connected by having our prior spotlighted speaker, in this case, Alicia Cyrus, select who we should talk to next. And here we are with the opportunity to speak to Nazim about his story. And you'd be amazed at how connected we are in some of our similar experiences as Black professionals.
Absolutely.
So Nazim, with over like 20 years of experience in the energy sector, he's focused on a digital innovation and transformational growth in the oil and gas industry, helping companies achieve enterprise modernization and operational excellence. And outside of his consulting work, he frequently contributes to discussions in the Houston Energy Leadership Cohort. He stays attuned to the current industry trends and is committed to mentoring the next generation of leaders. But that is just the tip of the iceberg about Nazim. So please, Nazim, introduce yourself so we can all learn more about you and all the things you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate the invite. And thank you to the larger Agile and Color community and all those who joined tonight. Really appreciate it. And Alicia for connecting us. I do appreciate that. So yeah, that was a wonderful introduction. I think the only thing I can add to it is background. Yes, I was born in New York City, actually. Grew up in Houston, though. Moved to Houston when I was fairly young. And so, I kind of have a blend of a personality. I feel like I bring the East Coast energy, but that Southern charm with it as well. So, just as a New Yorker, who grew up in Texas. But love Houston. Houston is home. Love the diversity of the city. I am the youngest of four. I have two brothers, two older brothers, and one older sister. So I was always, curious as the youngest, curious in what I can get into, curious if I can follow them around, curious if I could keep up with them. And so that kind of nurtured my curiosity and competitive streak there. But um, my family, being the youngest, my siblings and my mother, they just always encouraged me to think big, encouraged me to pursue my dreams and goals, and that really laid the path for my life. To be quite honest, the foundation of my family, definitely. Hard work. My mother instilled that in me at a young age. Working. That New York mindset. So always having a job, always working, even throughout high school. Just understanding that life, and to get what you wanted out of life, you have to work hard. And so that carried me into my professional career for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. One note before I go any
Mm.
further, for anybody who might have a question for Nazim, um, Khadidra, who is also a fellow Agile and Color team member, will be monitoring the live stream chat. So please post your questions and she'll get them to us. Well, that's great to know your backstory. And I saw somebody talking about being a New Yorker as well. Um, all representing East Coast here.
Yes, yes.
Um, so how did you get started in IT and what was really your interest?
Good question. So, going back, I actually studied chemical engineering in college. I really didn't have an interest at the time in studying IT. Love technology, growing up, obviously, just having a computer, playing video games, of course, the latest tech and keeping up with phones, etc. Um, but I really love the problem solving of engineering. Having a problem, chemical engineering. I love chemistry when I was younger and in high school and college as well. But the career path for chemical engineers, especially here in Texas, and when I graduated, it was going to work at an oil firm, oil refinery or chemical plant, which I did. And I didn't enjoy it. It was in the middle of nowhere, it was in the boonies. I'm a New York Houstonian. I need to be in the city. I need to be where
You
there's
got to be in the
activity.
mix.
Exactly. Even at work, I need that type of environment. And just working in remote areas at chemical plants or oil refineries wasn't the type of long-term career I wanted. And so at the time, consulting firms were recruiting all backgrounds. They were looking for just that diversity of thought, bringing it, with the big four at the time, and technology was becoming a big part of consulting. And so I was recruited by Ernst and Young actually to join their consulting practice. And they lured me with the idea of, hey, you'll work on different projects, you'll travel the world, you'll get to do all of these cool things that you get, and you learn a lot. And so I've always been a curious kind of learner. And so that did interest me. I had friends that went into consulting, most from the business school and business background. And so it was a little different coming from an engineering background. Um, and so that initial exposure or at E&Y really started my career background just as a tester in the testing role because I had no really strong IT skills at the time or consulting skills. And so I wanted to learn how things were put together, and I got a chance to test. And then from there, I was like, let me see if I want to do development or coding. And so I took some coding classes, engineering classes, um, and did from testing work with the development team. Did development work for a little while. It was just a little while. I was like, okay, the pace of change, the speed of change. I don't have that much interest in technology to keep up with the learning and the pace of change that developers need to. But I enjoyed, you know, watching the business analysts kind of play in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
working with the business and working with the development and testing team that I had come out of. And so I went into a BA role after that, and then from there started on a project management journey. So I really, found the best of both worlds that I could do technology and constantly learn, but I could also engage with people and be, people centric and leading teams and so that's kind of where my career journey was a little different,
Mm-hmm.
but still it was definitely an exciting journey to learn at each level, from tester to BA, developer, then PM. It was a really good journey.
It's so funny because I had pretty much the same kind of trajectory. I did a little, I experimented with a lot of the same roles. I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
a little bit of development, a little bit of
hmm
testing, and spent a lot of time in the BA role too.
yeah.
But I think, that's the only way you get to really know. It's like, is this for me or not?
Exactly, exactly. You have to, and we'll talk about that in
Yeah,
later part. But yeah, not to be afraid of trying something new and different that you may not know anything about, but jumping into it.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So in your role right now, what do you find most rewarding?
Mm. In my current role,
Yeah.
it's two parts. Definitely the helping and growing others. Like that is a big part of who I am and a big part of my role today is helping others really grow their careers and see them grow in their knowledge. Of course, first and foremost, it's always about obviously, bottom line. I have to hit the bottom line. And that's we're in business. We're in the business world. And so the bottom line is important. But the journey along that is super important. How do you bring others along with you to grow them in my role, really my role is responsible for one, growing our upstream or our oil and gas portfolio. So doing more work with our clients here, bringing our Slalom difference to our local clients in Houston and across Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, as far as oil and gas. In addition to that, growing and leading the Houston office. And so mentoring and growing individuals. And in consulting, it really is service based. We serve our clients or customers, and our product is our people. And so having to invest a lot in the people is really a critical part of my role and helping to not only grow from a technology and industry standpoint in oil and gas and upstream, but also on the other side of that as the location lead for Houston, growing our office, growing the individuals, helping them with their career journey, and bringing the best of my career and my advice and my experience to help others navigate their careers well.
Mhm. So as you're talking about mentoring and helping others grow their career, what's the professional advice you would give the up and coming like Black professionals in your field?
So one piece of career advice I heard many years ago is manage your career or else someone else will manage it for you. And so, when I started in my career, I just thought being heads down was
Mm,
the most important thing. Doing my job, excuse me, really focused on doing a great job and being heads down and doing that.
yeah,
Now, what I didn't understand the importance of network and mentors. And so that part of it is important to me today. So I would say up and coming Black tech professionals, especially because
yeah,
there weren't that many Black tech leaders as I was coming up since technology was such a new field. And so build your network and find mentors is key. Don't underestimate the power of mentorship, of sponsorship. Actively seek out mentors, seek out those who have walked the path before you or that believe in your potential. And so a good mentor or sponsor can advocate when you're not in the room, which is really important and guide you through some of the unwritten corporate rules like what else besides having your head down, showing up at different corporate events or finding those employee outside of work, those employee resource groups um, that resonate with you, whether they're the Black ERG or affinity groups at your company or community based, but having and building, having a mentor to kind of guide you through. Yeah, you're doing a great job, but now let's expand and get your some exposure. The second thing I would say is continuous learning. If I'm talking to Black tech professionals, it's especially today we live in a world of AI where now the speed of change is faster than the change itself. Things are constantly changing and evolving quickly. And AI and Gen AI and LLM and everything that we're doing now is exponentially speeding things up. And so tech is evolving. Find a way to stand out and keep sharpening your skills, whether you're hands-on keyboard technologist or leader from the business analyst, business advisory space with agile project management, BA, constantly looking to stay on top of your game and learning. Because that knowledge, in the end, that extra knowledge becomes your competitive edge and helps you stand out. And then for us, specifically as Black professionals, know your worth, own it, and be confident. That's super important. I know throughout my career, there's been moments of imposter syndrome and do I belong here? And am I confident enough to raise my hand and speak up in this meeting and let my voice be heard? And yes, I want to encourage all of our future leaders, our Black professionals, that there may be times that you feel like the odds are stacked against you, or you may have some self-doubt, but come back to that. That advice, the advice that I give is to really believe in your own worth, even when it's hard. Even speak up in meetings, take on challenging assignments, and let people know your aspirations. Like, yeah, I'm interested in growth. I'm interested in the next level. How do I get there? What are some of the? Can I raise my hand for this opportunity? And so I was a little bit shy about that earlier in my career, and I just expected my good work to speak for itself.
hmm
But I learned, confidence, not arrogance. Now we can tee that line quite a bit. We can, which is nothing wrong. I can too, sometimes. But confidence is much more important, to our growth. And so and be confident, stay authentic, uh, and be your authentic self. I think that's the one thing that I have benefited from is that I get to show up as Nazim wherever I am, at home, at work, at the store. I generally like to be my authentic self. I like to laugh. I like to smile. I like to joke. I like I enjoy having more of a relaxed environment, even though I know times will be stressful and we have to work hard. But outside of that, just the environment we create, um, you bring with you that environment or atmosphere goes a long way when you're just being yourself, when you're
Hmm.
just being your authentic self and showing up as you. So all of our background and our interests help shape and mold who we are. And that makes us unique. And I encourage us to continue to do that and be that and show up like that.
Yeah. So, speaking of confidence, how did you find yours? Because I know people in the process, it's like, how do I get there or, you know, get over the hump?
Yes. So I will equate it to something that I hear from I go to a CrossFit class and the coach is always in the ear, yelling and screaming every morning. But their principles tie over to so many different areas. You build more strength, you build more endurance, you build more confidence by doing, by
Right,
absolutely doing. And we went back to that approach with you do have to raise your hand and volunteer or go after a role or an opportunity that's going to stretch you. Absolutely. But that's the only way you build that confidence in between where you are and where that lack of confidence or that gap is today is by doing, just continuously challenging, finding a challenge and working and building those muscles, getting stronger. So that confidence muscle is strong. And the only way that we can build it is truly putting ourselves in situations that require us to be confident. And so that means that I have to go after that opportunity. Ooh, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little worried. Do I belong? Can I do it? But it ties back to that confidence. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Just enough so you feel that knot in your stomach.
Exactly, because it's going to be there. It's going to be there. And I was at a leadership uh, team meeting at the beginning of, so about a month ago, at the beginning of August. And he had everyone in the room, the coach that was guiding us, all the leaders through this workshop for 3 days. He started day two with getting us in low horse. So he had us like in the squat position, had everyone stand up. And it's an uncomfortable position after he's like, you got to stay in it for, I think it was 30 seconds. By the end, it's like, yeah. But the point in that exercise was to get us comfortable with being uncomfortable. There are going to be moments when you are uncomfortable. That's just part of the journey, the growth mindset. And so that's okay. Knowing when you're uncomfortable and you have that feeling, that knot in your stomach, that just means you're challenging yourself and looking and working and doing something that is more challenging than maybe what you're doing today. So that is great. That knot in the stomach is a good indicator.
Gotcha. Khadija, I don't know if we have any questions. I not watching chat or anything like that.
Yes, there's questions in the in the Zoom, not on the YouTube.
Oh,
We have a question. How do you influence leaders or the company's minds when it is not the focus, but being technical and metrics are the focus?
So, what was the first part of that question? Being technical and metrics are the focus, but what is not the focus? I'm sorry.
When that is not the focus. Oh,
I wonder.
influencing leaders and companies' minds.
how do you influence?
Mm,
Or if Danielle wants to come off mute, I think maybe you said that as he was
yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
speaking.
yeah.
Yep.
Say what?
Sorry, I just Danielle. I was catching him as he was speaking. But
Mhm.
yes, when that is not the focus as far as building others, mentoring, growing, aspiring to attain other roles. Um, just when that is not the focus, and the focus is really that sounds nice, but it's just we're just concerned about metrics or technical uh, assets and like
Yeah.
no soft skill.
No, good question, Danielle. Thank you for coming off mute and explaining that. So,
No problem.
I have a couple of points there, and you're right. I mean, especially in this age where we are now. Look, we have to realize that AI is bringing a bit of a revolution to all industries. But put that aside, and so what a lot of companies and industries are doing is looking at how can I do more with less. You know, a lot of optimization is happening across all industries. We went through years of big transformations, big agile transformations, and corporations taking on big transformations, digital data. And now they're looking at ways now to shrink. Now, how can we do more with less? How can we, and so looking at the bottom line is is going to be an increased focus on a lot of companies. However, I'll say, Danielle, you have to go where you're being watered as well. If you're in an environment where growth is not a foundational principle of the organization, and it's just a talking point, then yeah, my advice would be to grow and put yourself in a place in an environment where that is more than just talk. We know that all companies, as I mentioned, are going to go through some cutbacks and some optimization, and looking at the bottom line and cost and how can they do more with less. However, investing in your people and investing in your employees, I think that's foundational to the success of the best companies. And um, so I would encourage us to look and outside of maybe where you are or within that part of the organization, another group that may be more forward thinking and have that growth mindset where they can want to continue to invest in the employees to have that growth. I don't know about influencing the top because a lot of times those decisions are made based on the bottom line, based on looking at data, numbers, and the bottom line. Whereas the culture of a company also should come from the top down. And that should be a part of it, not just the data and the bottom line and the numbers, but the culture and the people. And so if those two things are aligned, let's go where we're being watered. It's hard enough, jobs are demanding enough, and you want to be in a place that you feel great about, that you're growing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The next question. Do you have advice for knowing when and who to express your aspirations to? I am often worried about whether it's safe to express confidence or goals without creating insecurities or making others feel threatened. That's a good
Um,
question.
so good question. And that's something, excuse me, that I just want to say own your brilliance. That's really where I want to start with it. And I don't and with this question, my advice would be, own your brilliance and stay true to yourself and don't dim your light. And so if you know of an aspirational role that you want or see someone in that role, reach out, And again, getting low horse a little bit. I know it's uncomfortable and you may not want to make that person uncomfortable. However, push through that. That's a little bit of I felt that as well. Push through and find those that have the roles or have had a career journey that you like or aspire to be, and go with them. Go to them with that confidence. I would encourage that as well. Is to um, put other people aside a bit when you're talking about managing your own career, because so that no one else manages it for you. You do have to put yourself first in that sense. Not that we have to be selfish, but we have to put self first, when we're pursuing our career goals and journey. And so yes, to that question, I would absolutely encourage you just to go after it. Go after that person or that group or that mentor that you see on a career path journey that you want to take as well, and ask them if, with confidence, if they can mentor you or sponsor you or
Hmm.
give you just, hey, let's meet for coffee where I can learn a month to have a monthly connect, a monthly coffee where I can learn from them, and and um, and then always obviously offer your help to them as well. Always try to bring something to the relationship as well.
Absolutely. I'm totally 100% on the sponsorship train because it's great to have mentors, but it's really important to have sponsors
That is
because
true. That is
sponsors make things happen
in that room. Yes, very true.
in the rooms that you're not in. They
Right.
can
They
vouch
have to
for
be the.
you. Yeah. So, yeah, if you can find, mentors might lead to sponsors. You never know. But as Nazim said, you have to make those connections, reach out. Because I think that a lot of people, if you ask them, would be happy to offer mentorship or in some shape or form sponsorship as you develop a relationship. I think, that's key too. All right. Let me go on with some of my own questions.
Okay.
And we'll pop in to see what other
Mhm.
people have to ask and stuff like that. Um, so for your particular journey, what was your biggest challenge in your journey as a tech professional?
Yeah, I would say the first was definitely lack of representation. When we talked about it for lack of representation and role models, mentors, and definitely sponsors. That was that's why this is so important, Nicole, what you're doing here, so that we give that visibility to others that are coming up in the Black tech world, that there are leaders, that they're, and letting our audience know that yes, you belong here. This is the right space, and we can. And there's a lot of great Black leaders out there in tech. So, so that's one. Definitely, that was a huge barrier when I started my career 20 plus years ago. And then, you know, um, the as I've gone through my career, it's also a challenge in now hiring. Now that we have more Black tech students or professionals with experience, there's still a bias in hiring and networking. And we can be honest about that. There's an unconscious buying in recruitment and hiring. Resumes with certain names might not get the looks that they should. And people tend to gravitate to candidates like themselves. And so because those we didn't have the networks like we do today, Agile in Color, Afrotech, just so many
Mhm.
different events and networks that I love. I love that the next generation of Black professionals are finding ways to create these environments because that was definitely a challenge. Um, and I will say one of the other challenges was kind of my own personal, imposter syndrome and self-doubt that we talked about earlier. Internally, I come from the generation where I was taught, walking in or leaving the house, for college and work, you have to work twice as hard to get just as far. And so that was really almost self-defeating. I understand where it came from the previous generation telling us, hey, you walk in work, you have to work twice as hard to get just as far. And so that meant that I'm half a person, so wait, I'm regulating myself. I have to do twice as much work as the person sitting next to me to advance my career. But that was a mindset that I had to break over the years. And it really took um, some other Black professionals that were younger than me that was like, wait a minute, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to devalue myself to work twice as hard just to get the same opportunity as the next person. That's not fair. It's not equity.
Mhm.
And so just breaking that mindset internally and breaking it in the workplace has been super important. But that was a challenge. for me as well. The biases, you know, the cultural fit or the onlyness kind of, in other words, thinking that we have to show up like our colleagues and not as our authentic selves. So that's kind of why I hit that point. It was, do we all have to assimilate and become
Mm,
one type of worker? No. And so learning that over my career that no, there's be yourself. Don't fold into these molds and ideas of what you have to be. Yes, you have to be a professional. Yes, you have to work hard. You have to produce based on the outcomes in your role or your title. However, you can do that in your own authentic way.
absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of equity, I know in this current climate that DEI is a taboo term right now. Um, but for companies willing to buck the trend, and
Yeah.
there are some,
Hmm.
how can they create equity for Black and people of color technologists to accelerate their career path?
Good question. And so if a company doesn't have like a Black affinity group or Black employee resource group, I think that's one. Because as you mentioned, that's where the mentorship, Nicole, and the sponsorship that you alluded to comes from. So first, it's about internal, internally connecting. And if companies are committed to the principles of DEI, then establishing those type of programs should be, if they're not already established, should be super easy. So getting involved with that. I know at Slalom we have our Reach, which is our Black Affinity Network that, we send a group to Afrotech. We have monthly events throughout the year. Of course, we have key times a year that we host bigger events. Juneteenth is big for us, especially here in Houston. And so to see that now as a national celebrated, holiday with events from all different types of companies. I love to see that, especially over the last 20 years. So first and foremost is that. And then we someone mentioned it earlier, but then there has to be clear pathways for growth,
Mm,
not just talk, but absolutely how do I grow my career to the next level as a Black or POC employee? How do I grow? And what is the pathway? It can't be arbitrary. It has to be something that is documented and clear for everyone. And so that is important as well. And because it's an opportunity for us to look for those stretch roles, and once you're in those stretch roles, then staying with the first point, how do we get involved in those leadership development programs as well? So does your company have leadership development programs that you can get involved with as you're going through those stretch roles? And so that's those 2 points are really fundamental that companies should have Black employee resource groups where you can network, find mentors, definitely find sponsors, pathways for growth. And companies need to, I mean, I think they have to foster an inclusive environment. There has to be, and not just in the words, but
mhm,
creating an environment where diverse voices are truly heard and valued. And so at company events, do you get an opportunity to hear from different voices or throughout, as we mentioned, we make a point with their employee resource groups to be proactive in speaking out in front at employee events or creating events that all employees can benefit from. And that way we can share more about our background. So celebrating our differences is really, brings that diversity and inclusiveness into real time. So those are just three
mhm,
um, points. And then for me personally, as the location lead for Houston, like Houston, accountability starts at the top. And so companies have to hold themselves accountable and leadership has to hold themselves accountable as well. And so, how is our diversity being tracked when it comes to our promotions annually? How are we in our retention? Are we promoting and retaining Black and POC employees? And if we are, great. What are we doing that's working? And if we're not, okay, what do we need to investigate to change? And so, I think that accountability starts at the top. This kind of goes back to one of the earlier questions, about being able to change, but it absolutely starts at the top. And um, so I think by, kind of implementing these strategies that more companies can level the playing field.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It starts with leadership. And speaking of leaders, on the other side of the coin, what qualities do you think modern leaders today are lacking?
Mm. Uh, I have a couple of things that point to mind, come to mind. I would say one is communication. you know, um, Effective communication that popped out, and just the first thing that popped in my head when you asked that question. Communication, effectively being able to communicate with all different levels of employees that you work with effectively. I think there's still a lot of command and control with leadership and coming from an agile background. And I didn't even get into that part of my career,
Mhm.
that brought me here, which is after becoming a PM, really focused on agile and scrum and safe. And that gave me an opportunity to grow and do bigger things, bigger roles, that
Right.
grew
Yeah, yeah.
that grew my career and got me here today, to be quite honest. I'm an agilist through and through. I was Scrum Master, I'm a safe SPC. And so that has been my journey. But um, so I would say communication, and part of that communication is two-way. It's the ability to really listen, truly listen and hear diverse perspectives. And then from there, um, as you're listening, I'm just taking it internally, having that humility, empathy and humility about you know, what you're hearing and the information you're getting from your employees. I think
Mhm.
that is, I would instill that, way more humility, way more empathy, a lot less command and control. At the end of the day, we're all working, human beings with lives and families and just other things outside of work that could have an impact on the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's where that empathy and humility comes in, because we can't expect things out of others that we don't do or have within ourselves, and so um, the changing landscape of leadership now, especially as we become more team based, and we become more growth and change oriented, is really that vulnerability side of it, the courage to be vulnerable, to be your authentic self and open up. I think that attracts more people and employees to you versus being closed and the stoic leader of yesteryear, command and control. But without the empathy, without the humility, without the really good communication two-way, speaking and listening,
Mhm.
being vulnerable is the foundation of that.
Yeah. And I think that people re respect if you don't have an answer right now. Like,
Exactly.
things are changing so much every day, all the time. It's okay sometimes for a leader to say, I don't have the answer, as opposed to making up one that's probably not gonna
Exactly.
be right, for sure.
Yeah.
I think people are drawn to honesty
Mhm.
more than
Totally.
Yeah, then a false
Yeah.
sense of like I have all the answers kind of thing, for sure. Um, so being a little bit more positive, what is one thing that you do regularly that makes you a better, as you're in your agile roles, a better agilist, or now as a leader?
Um, I spend a lot of time in one-on-ones now. Just setting time to, and they're not long. They don't have to be long.
Mhm.
I definitely keep an open door policy, except if I have to close it just for a specific conversation I'm having. But it is about the one-on-ones, checking in. How are they doing? What ideas do they have that might not have been shared? Any blockers that they're having, what's going on. And so it is one about that, making time to have those personal connections with a large group of people, and so just that short one-on-one time that I just grab to reflect, hey, you got a minute. And it's like, yeah, I don't want anything, no agenda. Let's just chat and check in. I think that has helped me a lot because I get feedback, and I get to hear from those that I may not get to hear from daily, with the team that I work with directly. And then it just helps me to become a better listener, really focus on my active listening skills and stay grounded,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of my and then like each week at the end of the week, I kind of do my own little personal retro. Like I said, I'm always an agilist.
Yes.
So, so doing my own retro now. How did it go? What are some of the things that I didn't get to accomplish and how can I, work around that next week to have a better week? So um, I don't do it every week, so let me not say every single week, but I do try to have a end of week retro, to just to have some time to sit and reflect before I shut down for the weekend.
Right. Gotcha. Right. Personal retro. You heard it here first, everybody. Do a quick one.
Exactly. Check in with yourself. How did I do this week?
What went well, what didn't go so well? Speaking of something like a retro, um, what would you say has been the biggest leadership risk that you've taken?
Uh, I If you ask me today, I'll say my current role. I don't know how many people are listening and will be listening on this video, but it has, I'll be transparent with that and totally vulnerable with you all this in this moment is I've been a managing director for little over almost 3 years now. So at the end, no, I'm sorry, 2 full years in the role title, but I became the location leader for Houston in May, and that was it was an additional, role for me, but it was a huge opportunity that I couldn't pass up, and it was a risk, it really was because hey, at the top, if that's it. Now, if things don't go well, it's on you, bro.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it was a risk, and it took me a few months to really um, understand the role and the decision I made. And this goes back to the mentor and sponsor, the previous GM and leader for Houston. He and I had a great relationship, and I had already told him or raised my hand and yes, shared with him that hey, I want to be the next Houston leader. And I thought that was 2 or 3 years down the road. So, he was not only he was a sponsor for me, and that okay, I want to learn everything I can from you about leading this office and growing consulting in Houston. And so, working with him probably over the last year and a half, and then he decided to resign and move on and do something else. And he was like, It's your time now, man. I'm
Here
gonna,
you go.
yeah, I'm going to let the leadership know that you're the person that I am nominating. And I had to think about it, and say, okay, I'm going to throw my hat in, and I'm going to be bold, take a risk, and say it's step out of my comfort zone and say, hey, now it's time. Go for it. You don't have all the answers. You don't know yet, but you'll figure it out. And every step along the way, I've been able to figure it out with some great help, of course, and great people around me. But it definitely was a big risk to take. So more to come.
That's right. To be continued.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. So who are there any agilists or tech professionals that you look up to for inspiration?
So I actually have two in there. It's two. So one is Dr. Anika Simmons, and she right now is the dean of the College of Business at Prairie View A&M University. And I've watched her career. She and I used to work together many years ago. And so watching her tech career grow and her transition into the education side, and now again leading the next generation of Black leaders and Black technologists. And so working along or having an opportunity to work along with her at an HBCU, just as far as mentorship and a partnership that Slalom can create with Prairie View, but
Mhm.
just watching her career grow, and now she's having an opportunity to really pour into the next generation. And her husband, actually, a man, Anwan Simmons. Yes, he used to work at Slalom, but he does not. He branched out, but he is a great leader in the agile space, a huge agile activist, advocate, excuse me, and engineering leader. He does a lot of speaking, travels around doing a lot of public speaking, but he also has done some really good TED Talks that I've listened to from his LinkedIn page, and just different talks that he's linked on his website. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. He has one, lifting as we climb, that I enjoy, like, as we climb, lifting others up with us. And so they they're a really good couple, and I've had an opportunity to know them personally, and they've inspired me a lot, along my professional journey.
Awesome. It's always important to have those people in your hemisphere because it's like,
Absolutely.
there's always bigger, better things and even and sometimes it's not up, sometimes it's sideways, sometimes
Yeah,
diagonal. You know,
exactly.
you just never know how it's gonna show up for you. So
Yeah.
that's really awesome. I know we're getting close on time. Let's try and squeeze a little bit more in here. Um, but one of the things that I wanted to find out from you is, up until this point, what has really been your proudest moment in your career?
Mhm. My career. One of my proudest moments. I would say one of the proudest moments that I've had is, I think I have to give two. One is um, one being named managing director in Houston. That was a truly proud moment for me. I have it linked on my Instagram page, because when the announcement was made, one of the my coworkers was recording it, and it kind of surprised me So they were like, I was in another conference room taking a meeting. They were like, no, we need you to come in here. And so they did a big thing, with the announcement, but it was good because, I was the first Black managing director in Houston. And so that super proud of that. And I was proud of it because yes, my journey was a little different. It took a little longer, in the sense that, like I said, in my 20s and 30s, I really just had my head down and wasn't focused on sponsorship and mentorship and how to navigate corporate. And then it wasn't until my late 30s and 40s that I said, or early 40s, excuse me, that I said, hey, it's time now to really focus on your career and where you wanted to progress to. And and so that was definitely a huge personal moment. I felt like I could blaze a path now for those that were coming behind me. The next group of Black tech professionals won't have to go through the same landmines and experiences that I did, and I can help them navigate corporate America much more successfully. Another vantage point is I was in the beginning of my career with Slalom. We were actually leading an agile transformation for a large major oil and gas company here in Houston. And to really accomplish that, we had an opportunity to upskill their workforce to lead several huge transformation projects, and leading them in an agile way and seeing those actually achieve success with the products that they were able to produce and continue to produce. And then seeing the team that I worked with really get the growth and the recognition that they deserve. Many of them, because of that journey, it was a multi-year journey and growth. Team grew, um, the count grew, and their careers grew. They grew their careers, both in title and in money. And so that was good. That's always
Oh,
important. Like, let's
yes.
not forget, we work for money now. So nobody's working for free out here.
Right,
So
right.
that really was an exciting time for me to help to one help our clients achieve success, and then two, because of that, the team achieved success as well.
Mm, that's so awesome.
Mhm.
All the things wrapped up in one.
Yes.
Well, we are unfortunately wrapping up our time together, which I'm sad about. It goes so quickly.
I know.
Uh, but I did want to ask if, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want everyone to know about you or about your experiences?
I know I've spoken a lot. I don't know. Let me think if I have anything else that I want to share. I don't
Any
think,
last nuggets?
right. I don't think so. I know we're right at time. I'm trying to think of something. I don't have anything that pops in my head right now.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you spending this time with us, sharing about your experiences, your journeys, your successes, your challenges, and, just also sharing your advice, because we can always learn from each other and grow every day. And one of the things that we want to promote with this Share Your Story
Mhm.
series is about creating those and growing your network.
Yeah.
Because we all need someone to talk to, especially as we're going through career ups and downs and all that sideways. So I was just quickly putting, hopefully these are the right links. I put my LinkedIn link as well as Nazim's in the chat. So feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn if you want to have one of those one-on-ones about your career or next steps or anything like that. Please, please, please reach out. You're not alone. You're now part of our community. So thank you. Thank you again, Nazim.
Thank
And
you.
I have two more things.
Okay.
Um, one thing for Nazim and one thing for everybody. So the first thing for Nazim, like I did Alicia, you got homework. So you have to select who is the next
Mhm.
person that we're going to spotlight. It will have to be a woman because we alternate between
Okay.
women.
Love
So I'll give you time to think on that and you can share that with me and
it.
that could
Okay.
be a surprise for everybody for our next session. And then let's see if I can bring this up. One of the things that we also do, see if I can share my screen first. One of the things that we do is Agile in Color. We support other communities, and one of the communities we are supporting is the Bahamas Agile and Project Management community, and they are having a professional development day on Friday, November 7th. And we encourage everyone to attend. It's at a low, low price of $25. You can scan the code to register. They have a large swath of speakers lined up, um, good nuggets and giveaways from their sponsors. So I highly encourage you to attend. This is another way that you can build your community. Let me make sure I share, making sure I'm sharing. Yes, so there you have it. So join us there. A few of us Agile and Color folks will be attending. So like I said, a good way to expand your network. Great,
That
grow your community.
is that local or is that in the Bahamas?
It's virtual. It's virtual, but I think that they are trying to work on a conference. So that would be in the Bahamas then. You know, I'd be there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Um, but yes, but this will be virtual on Zoom. So it's a low barrier to entry for you to attend. So we encourage everybody to join us there. And with that, I will wrap it up. So again, thank you, Nazim. And
Thank
thank you
you.
everyone for joining us for the Share Your Story. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next one. All
Thank
right.
you, Nicole. Appreciate everyone joining. Hey, Alicia, thank you for referring me. And this was great. Thank you all for the questions as well.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Righty.
Thanks for joining us. Be in luck. Great. I think we're good to go.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Khadija.